Hey you guys, this is Sahirenys, and today I want to do something a little special with you guys. I want to share a 15 to 20 minute snippet of a 2 hour conversation that I had with my husband. We were talking about our marriage and our journey, and I really wanted to share with you guys one of the harder parts of our journey. And just let me know if you guys want to hear more content like this. So thanks for listening. And then we kind of held off on my car, paying off my car because it was the last debt or the earliest debt that we just got. So we were really debating if we wanted to pay it off. And I think that's when we started getting a lot of our,
Life hit us. She's basically,
yeah.
yeah.
it,
Um,
it was really hard because at that point we already had our daughter, and then we got pregnant with our second baby, and it was ended up being a boy. We were really
Again, people
excited.
thought that we were crazy because we had our kids so close, but there was logic behind it. The initial logic, which might not be the plan anymore now that Poise is here, but the initial logic was my wife has to take certifications and be active with the
That's
certifications.
true.
When we were talking about spacing the kids out, it would have made her certifications pointless because by the time she would have transitioned back into work, she could have lost the certification she just worked her butt off to get. So we wanted to go ahead and get it out the way so that by the time she wanted to go into her career, she didn't have to stop anymore as a whole.
Yeah, and they'll be in school.
Yeah.
But back to when we were having Lee, we had the since my daughter's pregnancy was healthy, um, we pretty much held off on the ultrasound to like the last pretty much minute. And at that point, they found something a little weird, and it ended up being that he had tetralogy of Fallot, which is a heart defect. And it was weird because like Jimmy Kimmel, he explained his son's heart defect very recently, and it kind of allowed us to really understand what was going on. We had someone to relate to, and at that point we just went full gazelle intense and started saving for his surgery because we weren't really sure if he needed to have his surgery after birth like Jimmy Kimmel, or if it was going to be spread out 6 months later.
Yeah,
And we were
with
really,
Jimmy's son, it was. I mean,
his son was,
you say it like it was really common. I think we were a
I
nervous
didn't know it was
wreck.
common.
No, I'm
But
saying
no,
after we found out,
no, I
I
know,
think
but
we were
even the
like,
doctor was like that, him putting that out there like that allowed even the doctor to explain it to the parents easier, because the parents are like, is this like Jimmy
it
Kimmel,
didn't.
yes or
It
no?
it it did, but it really didn't matter at the moment because the catch was like nobody in our family had gone through that, and we were.
No,
I mean, we
definitely
were
not.
we were selling like it seemed like we were untouchable in certain aspects. Like we transitioned into marriage smoothly. We had our first kid. We started a business, and like we didn't have all the hardships that or the horror stories that a lot of other people had. And so when we ran across this hurdle, I know from my end, it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with mentally. And I honestly think I mentally shut down
Yeah.
at a certain point, and I went into full work mode because I needed something to distract me from it. You know,
Mm.
I I wasn't going to give myself the excuse to just shut down,
Mm-hmm.
right? In my mind, there was there was only a few things we could do, right?
Yeah.
And the main one was we had to let go and let God deal with it.
Yeah.
But on the earthly standpoint, we were going to put him in any and every position possible to get the best health care that we could. So
Yeah.
when I say we were paying premium health care, we didn't even allow him to be on my wife's health care when he came out. We had already discussed that he was going to go on premium due to the fact that when she gave birth, there was a 50% chance that he was going to need the surgery right after birth. We had like, what was it, like 8 people in the delivery room
I
with
think it
us. We
was
had an
nine.
amazing team, and find out he was like
He was
the
the healthiest
this
baby in
baby
the
in the
NICU.
NICU.
It was
And
so sad.
not only did he leave around the same time that Raylan left, he was
Like
on
most kids,
like
yeah.
most kids, but they told us he looked so good that they didn't expect for him to have the surgery for another 9 to 12 months, 12 pushing it. But I think it
I
was
think
like
he
another
said
9 months.
6 months.
No, it turned into 6 when he got his first cold. And when he
Mm.
got that cold, the doctor said that he didn't want to take a risk due to the fact that the way his heart was working, that he didn't want the infection to do something, right? And so he
Mm.
said instead of playing the risk, so like what would happen was his lips would turn blue.
Yeah, no one wanted to babysit because
Nobody
it
wanted to
was super
babysit.
freaky.
Nobody wanted to hold him at the beginning. And it was just it was an unusual position to be in for us.
Yeah.
And what occurred was I worked so hard. Like if you thought that I worked hard when I was working on that project, I think I was working 80 hours a week at this point. And we literally had all the money for the surgery and the trip to LA because we decided to do it in LA.
Yeah, luckily that was the hard part because when I was like doing the budget and trying to figure out how much money do we need for food, how much money do we need for the surgery, I was like, oh man, I really hope we get the Ronald McDonald House because it's such a good support team and it was it was just a blessing. It was right across the street from the hospital. It was just gonna make everything easier and luckily we did get that.
Yep.
And we had a lot of support at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. And it was just a very emotional time. And to me, again, it was more of not having to think about our money. You know,
and that's what I
everything
wanted.
was organized. The emergency fund was there. We had the money for the surgery in a specific savings account. And because the hard part to me, I was really shocked. I didn't think they were going to charge us the copay for the first day of the surgery when we first got there. I was just like, man, they're already asking for money. The surgery hasn't even started.
Not only that, the thing that was with us was you were going to the doctor every week and a half, seemed like, getting checked.
Yeah, it was hard.
You had a lot of procedures put on. It was mentally draining, but the last thing I wanted you to worry about was money. I didn't want any scenario in which money, when that time came, money was going to be the last thing we discussed at that point. And that was what I thought I could bring to the table because you were giving your entire body to the rest of the process. And I wasn't doing that. But what I could do is sacrifice my body in hours and hustle up the money for the actual time that we needed for it. And the craziest aspect of it was that he was supposed to have his surgery in May. In
the beginning of May, the first week. And then it was weird. Like Raylan and Lee both caught the flu. A cold. And the doctor was like, well, we have to postpone the surgery. We don't do surgeries
on sick kids,
on anyone that has a cold or any, not even if they're kids, even adults. And we were like, okay, well, this gives an extra 2 weeks. And it was hard because my dad came to help out and to be there for the surgery. But then we got hit with another family emergency, which I felt was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot because your dad he got sick at our wedding.
And it was...
And since our wedding,
he's been sick since the wedding. He had a seizure at our wedding, and then
the day before the wedding,
he was already having issues, but like it just started cascading at a certain point. And so that April before May, he got sick enough to where we had a conversation.
I told him, my husband, I was like, babe, I have a gut feeling. I don't care if no one else is going. I think you need to go out there. Just be there for your mom. See your dad. I think it's really important to just be there because, like you said a while ago, your dad was in and out of the hospital. You know what I mean? That whole time. But that one specifically, I don't know. I had a gut feeling and I was like, you should go.
Yeah. So I ended up buying a flight, going out. I was out there for about a week. And he was in the hospital the entire time. And he ended up passing away the day I got back to San Diego. And I think he knew I wasn't strong enough to handle it physically being there. And so he allowed me to be back with you, basically. during that time. So I flew back out, and unfortunately, I had to go by myself because Lee couldn't travel.
Yeah, so his heart defect was already to a point where the doctor told us from the jet for the jump, there's no flying in airplanes at all from the day he's born until the day after he has his surgery, pretty much, because it was that sensitive.
Yes.
And we were just like, wow, okay, so there's no seeing family realistically until after the surgery is, done.
Yep.
So that was a really unfortunate event that we weren't able to be there with you. But it was hard because you flew back out there second time around, and right when you got back, that same weekend that you got back, the next day we pretty much went to LA for my son's surgery, and we dropped off my daughter at my sister's house, and luckily she took care of her, and it was off to the races for us to deal with that, emotional that emotional time. It was two big hits, and at that point it took Lee pretty much 2 weeks at the hospital to recover. So if you think about it, you're an entrepreneur, so if you don't work, you don't get paid.
And I didn't work at all.
So that was an entire month of no income. So that's 3 things: a death in the family, Lee had his surgery, and no income for an entire month. That was already wild. And then on top of that, I find out I have Graves' disease. I'm like, great. Just put a cherry on top.
Yeah, you were, and I mean, you found it out before his surgery, but it was weird in the house because your energy, your ability to do things, we couldn't tell. Like
they had an intervention with me because they told me that I was
getting too skinny and you were too
100
lazy.
Pounds
I called
and
you
I was
lazy. Yeah.
And I'm just like, I was frustrated with myself because I was like, wow, I can't produce content. I can't do these YouTube videos. I can't even finish
It wasn't even
washing
that. She
dishes.
couldn't wash dishes.
I couldn't even finish washing a load of dishes. I would stop halfway.
See, but we all thought it was because of the surgery for Lee. We thought you were too stressed, and you weren't telling us how stressed you were, right?
Well, yeah. Anyone that loses 15 pounds is a little concerning.
But you weren't communicating that, because we talk a lot and you weren't really saying it like, oh, I'm stressed out about Lee's thing anymore. Because we had gotten so much information in the procedure that it was nothing we could do at that point. But you were losing so much weight, and you were getting to the point where you couldn't even do basic functions around the house. It was not only frustrating because you couldn't explain it, but it was tough because, I mean, clothes weren't, it was a lot of basic things like that weren't occurring. And I end up hiring somebody to come help clean the house. And eventually you just went to the doctor and you found out that you had thyroid issues.
The hyperthyroid.
And the medicine, the craziest part is that the medicine that she had to take in order to help her balance out everything couldn't be used while breastfeeding. So for us, we had to make a choice. Do we figure out a way around this, right? Or do we just so that she could continue breastfeeding? Because our mentality was we wanted to give him the best chance to not only survive, but thrive, you know? And breast milk was something that we were told is better than just the formula. So
he wouldn't drink formula anyways. He was already spoiled with breast milk. Once you're spoiled with breast milk, it's very difficult to get back on.
And so you didn't take that medicine at the beginning, and then you end up getting to the point where we just had to, but you pumped as much as you could leading up to it.
At the hospital.
Even at the hospital. Yeah.
That was dramatic.
She's better now, you guys.
But it was just so many stuff that I look back at it. That's why I was like, God, I'm happy that, we had everything saved for all those emergencies. We had the emergency fund. We had the money for the surgery, because I would have been really stressed out about money. And then on top of that, imagine if we would have continued paying off debt. We would have been back into debt with all of that stuff, So thank God we had our emergency fund, and we really we both like, made it a
Yeah,
priority.
we would have been wiped out. The surgery would have wiped out the emergency fund, and then a month of not working would have put us into debt. Um, so, I mean, I think us bouncing outside of the order in which the baby steps were done, and we just literally focused on what we needed and made a gut choice. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people are afraid of. They want very particular structure and concrete ways to do things, and there isn't. You have to do what's best for you. You have to
Yeah.
feel it in your gut and make the choice and deal with the consequences that come from it. But like at the end of the day, regardless if it goes right or if it goes wrong, it was a choice that you made and you controlled it. And we were, as a team, we talked about it enough to where the decision that we made not to pay off debt and focus on preparing for the surgery and saving as much money, not only did it work out amazing for us and we didn't have to deal with the money during the most mentally stressful time of our lives so far,
Jesus
we
Christ, that's hard.
created the high five banking method during that time in
And
order
that
to
was,
set up ourselves for success
yeah, and
during
that
this time.
and that was the thing too. I remember when I got back from the surgery. It was the same week we got back from the surgery. I was telling my husband, I was like, babe, I have another gut feeling. Like I have an urge. I need to explain our banking method, our system, because I feel like it relieved a lot of emotional stress when it came to the money.